Dr. Patel backstage. For me, she's a very special guest because I learned how to teach meditation from Dr. Sheila Patel as well as Deepak Chopra and Roger Gabriel. So I talk about meditation all the time and how it changed my life. And I was very fortunate in my practice. But this is a special guest for me as well. I've had my own struggle with sleep, with anxiety, with panic attack. Um, and it actually very much surprised me. All of this happened later in life. Um, and I didn't know how to navigate it at first, but I did a deep dive in and I learned a lot. And I'm hoping to learn even more. Uh, would you say so? Anyway, guys, welcome, Dr. Patel.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Would you say diving right in?
Yeah.
Sleep, our first topic. Would you say that it is on the verge, if not already, a health epidemic?
Yes, absolutely. And welcome everyone. It's really nice to be here with all of you. And yes, I would say sleep. I have just co-authored a book with one of my mentors, Dr. Suhas Kshirsagar, who's an Ayurvedic physician. And Ayurveda is, a traditional healing system. And in Ayurveda, they've always recognized sleep as a biological necessity. It's this natural biological urge that we have. And when we support that, and don't interfere with the process, then it's one of the most natural things we can do, like eating and breathing and sleeping. But all of these things have become epidemics. We have to reteach people how to sleep. We have to reteach people how to breathe. We have to reteach people how to eat, because we've gotten really away from, listening to our bodies, from natural cycles. Modern society, and is one of the factors of interfering with creating, natural, regular routines. But so what I'm seeing, because I'm a physician, I trained in the Western medical system, but then also after about 12, 13 years moved to learning and training in Ayurveda. And what I'm seeing is, again, as you mentioned, and now, of course, because there are so many books out there and information, I think sleep is one of the most highly Googled, words, because it is an epidemic globally. Really, people are just having more and more trouble connecting to that
How
rhythm.
do we interfere with the process?
So some of it is, there are two things when anything natural that we, our body is trying to do gets disrupted. Number one is we're interfering with our natural mechanisms that help us sleep. And I'll talk about a few of those. And number two is we're not giving our body what it needs to do what it's supposed to do. And most of the time it's multifactorial, right? And that's why, like, just giving people a medication to sleep or just taking an herb to sleep, it's not the answer, because we have to get to the root cause. So there are a couple of things that interfere with our ability to naturally sleep. n- you know High level, I would say modern society, right? Because lights all the time, and now even more so than ever, screens, phones, TV, constantly 24 hours a day. And we can that light really suppresses our natural rise in melatonin that helps us sleep. We have all these molecules in our body that regulate these natural processes. And so artificial light is one of them, and that's part of our modern world. And also complete sensory overload, because the nervous system needs to be balanced in order for us to sleep, and it needs to be in that rest and digest mode. We have two branches to the nervous system: fight or flight, which we need when we're active and awake and potentially under threat, and rest and digest, which helps us do exactly that: rest, digest, create mechanisms for longevity. And so when the nervous system is constantly overloaded, we're in a chronic stress state. And there's science, that backs this up. And so we can't really get into a restful sleep when our nervous system is a little bit on high alert. Little things wake us up. And then, of course, I mean, the third thing, I'll do it in threes. I'd say stress. Modern life is so stress, creates stress. And if we don't have, and as you know, as teaching meditation, it's not necessarily about having a completely stress-free life. It's about managing that stress and having tools and practices that help us deal with all of these things. Because it's when we're stressed, our monkey mind starts. We lay down at night
Right.
and our mind is just going, 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 going. And even if we're exhausted and we fall asleep, we're not getting the good sleep that we need and we wake up tired. Yeah. So those are kind of three biggies.
Are the traditional practices of Ayurvedic enough, um, considering the overload that we're faced with? Do we need to supercharge them? Um,
Yeah, that's a great question. Because again, when we look to Ayurvedic teachings, which have been described for thousands of years, uh, life was very different, right? And so some of the recommendations, like create a regular sleep wake cycle, and go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time, and try to do that in alignment with nature, and eating at certain times and not eating. So many of the Ayurvedic recommendations were, I'd say, easier to implement in a time when life was
right.
more connected to nature. So we do have to make some accommodations to modern life. When people have night shift jobs or people travel all the time now, those things didn't exist back then. So that's what I really appreciate about, I trained with Chopra and I learned from Deepak and, Roger and David Simon and, many Ayurvedic practitioners who've been in the West for a while, and we do need to accommodate it somewhat to our modern life, and know that we can make small changes that make big differences. So the Ayurvedic practices are still applicable. I think we just have new challenges in implementing them. But we talk about that in the book. It's written very much for people living in a modern world.
Right. And the book talks of it's not just Ayurvedic, it's modern science and Ayurvedic at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so interesting to me how all of these traditional understandings of how we function, and that's true for many indigenous healing traditions and traditional medical systems, that science, the more and more we learn, it's just validating what a lot of these traditions and medical systems told us. For example, number one, that sleep is important. It's not just closing your eyes and the body rests and then you wake up. There's so many things happening when we sleep. uh, And in Ayurveda, it's very interesting. They describe it in different terminology, but it's very much what sleep science is telling us. Different things happen in deep sleep, different things happen in dream sleep, different things happen, during light sleep. And we need all those stages. And what is happening again in the body? The body heals and regenerates itself. The mind, clears and processes emotions. Science is validating a lot of those things, and Ayurveda and Vedic tradition, with these stages of sleep, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and then ultimately transcendence, is very, similar, just some different terminology. So
Um,
yeah, I find it really interesting.
we all go through those stages, don't we? I I know a lot of people say they don't dream, but everyone dreams. We just don't remember them, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So there's different factors, that can affect, and there are different mind body types. And we talk about that in the book. In Ayurveda, there are different mind body types. They're called doshas for people who, aren't aware. But, and the main mind body types are Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And Vata is air and space. So they're already light sleepers and a little bit more in the ethers, air and space. And so they typically have very vivid dreams and wake up during their dreams and remember them. um, they can be very creative dreams. And then there's the fire types, fire and water, that's pitta. They can have very intense dreams, but they also sleep very soundly. So they may or may not remember them. Typically, they'll remember them and they can have intense, fiery, themes. And then, or they're, you know, working out problems in their sleep, thinking. And then kaphas are earth and water. So earth and water is steady, stable. They have the deepest sleep. And they oftentimes will say they don't remember their dreams, even though if you put EEG, you know, um, electrodes on, we would see that, yes, indeed, you're going through dream sleep stages. Everyone goes through all the stages, but they can get disrupted for various reasons. And actually, some medications that are used for sleep, even though they help people fall asleep and they're sedatives, they can interrupt some of these sleep stages. But we cycle through them all night long. Yeah.
Right. I am uh, familiar with Ayurveda, but I've never heard sleep and the stages of sleep described in terms of the doshes before, and that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so we cycle through them. Is it in stages? Do we go from
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. So, like, usually, again, and everyone's unique, everyone's individual. So, science tells us general, what happens in general populations, and so we know from sleep science that we cycle through these about every 90 to 120 minutes, and we go from, and it's common to like wake up a little bit, during the night, and then just kind of go back into light sleep, but we go from light sleep to deep sleep, and then dream sleep, and then kind of cycle back through again. Now, the length of time we stay in each stage can depend on, how active our nervous system is while we're sleeping, other medications, whether we ate late, many things. And it's really interesting in Ayurveda, the pitta time of the day, because these mind body types that describe different qualities of our nature also describe qualities in nature outside of us. So there are certain times of the day where certain energies are more dominant, right? So, for example, a simple way to understand that is in the middle of the day, it's the warmest temperature. The sun is highest in the sky. So that's a hot, fiery time of the day. So that's pitta time between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., but also 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. at night. And so during that time, in the Vedic tradition, and when I learned before all the sleep science was coming out, they say this is when we regenerate tissues and our body is healing itself. And, a lot of these things that are taught. And indeed, most of our deep sleep, even though we cycle throughout the night, is done during that 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Or I should say the early half of the night. 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is Vata time. This is when our mind becomes more active. Air and space, movement, our mind starts to move. And indeed, when you look at sleep science, they say most of our REM, that's dream sleep, is happening in the second part of the night. And so I always found that very interesting. Like, there were no electrodes, there was no, measurements, but there was this knowledge that, we do
right?
most of that deep sleep during pitta time, and detoxification, cleaning out the brain, regenerating tissues. Most of that's happening in the front end, and then a lot of emotional regulation, through dreams, etc., is in the second half. And then again, it's happening throughout the night, but this is, mostly what's happening. And then memory consolidation and those sorts of things are happening even in light sleep and, throughout the stages.
Each are equally important, though, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Good point. So we need all of those stages of sleep, and we're learning that through sleep science, because different medications and, people can have different disorders where they don't achieve the, necessary percentage of certain stages, and we see, different effects from that. Yeah.
Um, Different doshes. Should they have different sleep schedules, or is it a universal sleep schedule?
Yeah, just like in medicine, there are some general recommendations in Ayurveda that are just kind of true for everyone. So aligning ourselves as much as possible with, the circadian rhythms, the rhythms of day and night, that are happening outside of us, is important. But again, in modern life, not everybody can like wake up at sunrise and go to bed at sunset. That just doesn't work. But
Right.
as much as we can do that, is good. So in an Ayurveda, the ideal time is around 10 o'clock to be asleep. So start getting ready before that and be in bed. And typically we should fall asleep within 10 to 15 minutes. And then, so 10, and then wake up by 6, a little bit before 6 a.m. Is the ideal. And that does match our circadian rhythms when we are, living not like in artificial living situations. Now, there are some people that there's a little wiggle room there, but, for people that are going to bed at 1 a.m. and getting up at 9 a.m. and they get 8 hours, they may feel okay or they may not. But biologically, it's a little misalignment. So that's called, misalignment with the circadian rhythm. So eventually that can lead to things, it creates some inflammation in the body. There's not all the sort of cellular regeneration, tissue healing,
Right.
detoxification that's happening when we're a little bit more in alignment with the circadian rhythm.
So is it true that the quality of sleep before I've heard both 10 p.m. and I've heard 12 a.m. The quality of sleep before this time is a higher quality. Some have said up to like 4 hours, but I don't know if that's
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, for certain aspects of our physiology, it is that deep sleep. So, and if people wear wearables and track their sleep, you'll see if you go to sleep at that time, you're getting a lot of deep sleep during that time. So more important in the sense, perhaps for physical, healing, it's really happening during that time. And then, like I said, it's happening throughout the night, but mostly, yes, that 10 to 12, because from a Vedic perspective, Ayurvedic perspective, that's when Pitta is rising and peaking around midnight. Then it starts to go down, and then Vata's kind of peaking, between 2 and 6. So we want to maximize that time. And yeah, and the amount of sleep too, in answer to your previous question, um, Vata types, which are air and space, and they're like hypermetabolic, they expend energy very quickly. Sometimes they need 9 hours of sleep. You know what you'll read in science, 7 to 8 hours is a good thing to shoot for brain health, etc. But Vatas often need more sleep than everyone else to regenerate the energy. So they may need 8 or 9 hours. Pittas do everything intensely. So sometimes they're okay more on the 7 hour, time frame, or even six potentially, if they're don't have some major health issues. And then kaphas are somewhere in between that, kind of seven
right.
to eight is good. And sleep science does confirm that too little sleep isn't good for us. Less than 5 hours for sure is going to create issues, and more than 10. So just like in Ayurveda, it's a balance. You can get too much of a good thing, you can get too little of a good thing. And so oversleeping isn't good either.
Before my next question, my good friend Praveen says, love from India to Patel, ma'am. Uh,
Oh, thank you, Parveen. I'm so glad you're able to join us. Yeah.
uh, so this might be a sensitive subject to some, especially in the chat.
Mhm.
Is there a role, is there a case for naps?
Yes, there is. Naps can be very beneficial when you're not getting enough sleep. Um, there, it's the science confirms, and in Ayurveda too, the typical is like if you need to nap, it could be a short nap, like less than 30 minutes, because then you're getting through, most of the sleep stages in that time, and then can wake up refreshed. And you're not going to sleep so much that you're interfering with your sleep at night.
Mm.
So short little naps can be fine. Now, if somebody's sick, or, in Ayurveda, it's very individualized. If you're sick, if you're pregnant, if you're, there are other factors. You always have to look at each person, circumstances, and context. Sometimes a longer nap is necessary to rejuvenate, but, like a 2 hour nap. But in general, we wouldn't say that if someone's having sleep issues, because then, they may not have that sleep urge at night.
Um, so
One thing
probably,
oh, and one thing I will say, sorry, is,
sure.
sometimes what I tell people instead of napping is to do a yoga nidra practice. So yoga nidra is like a guided visualization. I mean, there's a lot to it. It's actually extending that time as we're falling asleep, and there's this liminal stage, and it's usually a couple of minutes. And in medicine, we don't even really appreciate that. It's like, "Oh, yeah, you're falling asleep. These biological things are happening, your pulse is slowing down, etc." But from a Vedic perspective, that's a really important stage. And we lengthen it when we get very deeply relaxed with the guided visualization, but we don't fall asleep. The voice is kind of guiding us. And so we kind of wake up. It's extending that, we're kind of surfing the wave between waking and sleeping. And a lot of subconscious healing happens in Vedic culture tradition. A lot of karmic things are cleared in that space. Um, in medicine, they describe pathologies that happen, like, when people wake up, become aware in that state, they can feel paralyzed, like their body doesn't move,
Right.
but they can be aware of it, or they have hallucinations. That's what they say in medicine. But what's happening is people are accessing all these different levels of awareness and lokas, different, planes. And you do go there are all the different types of brain waves happen in that stage: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, turiya, even like, transcendence. So it's a really interesting sleep stage, and it can restore, it's said, and 1 hour of yoga nidra could restore like 4 hours of what's happening, with
Right.
sleep. So that's a really neat practice.
Now, would yoga nidra, if we did an hour of yoga nidra, would that interfere with our sleep later in the day, later in the
No,
evening?
actually, if you do that, and typically it's done in the afternoon, it can be done before bed, incorporating certain mantras and like things to help people sleep. But typically you can do it in the afternoon. And because it's so relaxing, it's calming the nervous system. We talked about how the nervous system being activated can interrupt sleep. We're clearing the subconscious mind. We're doing a lot of karmic, because sometimes those are things that are keeping us up at night. We don't even know. Then when you do go to sleep, it actually helps people sleep. Yeah, and there's some really great studies on yoga nidra and different types of, they call them non-sleep deep rest practices, of
Right.
which yoga nidra is, and they use them in trauma situation. People who have trauma, people who have PTSD, to help people get better sleep. Yeah.
You mentioned sleep paralysis, and that's come up in conversations that I've had quite a bit recently. What is sleep paralysis? Is it something that we should be frightened of? Is it, it can be panic inducing for some people. Is there a way to navigate through it?
Absolutely. I remember that when I was younger, I would fall asleep like after school nap, kind of thing. And so what's happening is you're becoming aware, your mind is awake, but your body is still in a very deep sleep, and kind of like dream sleep state, because when we dream, the body is paralyzed because we don't want to act out our dreams, right? What we're doing in our dreams. So the body's actually paralyzed while we're dreaming. And so there's a little lag there, right, where we can become aware and awake, um and yet we can't move the body. And so I used to feel that I would like kind of panic, and you're like, come on, move, 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 right? But if people understand, like, you're in that liminal stage and you can just relax into that, and maybe even like, bring in intentions, or bring in good thoughts, or bring in, things. This is an area kind of like with meditation where you can plant seeds, and the body will eventually kind of get going and move. It's not a permanent type of situation, but I think it's scary. And I remember having that experience when I was younger.
Right.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
So speaking of meditation, how can meditation help us sleep? And can it be viewed in terms of um, achieving the same sense of restfulness? You know, like
Yeah.
for me,
So
it's a very
different.
restorative practice.
Yes, yes. So all of these practices are useful and helpful. We meditate, we do pranayama, yoga, and sleep have similar benefits in some ways, but they're all a little different. So, with yoga, we're moving our body. So, and even if you look at brain waves and different things that are happening, there's some benefits to those things, but it's different than when we're sitting still and meditating, right? Because our body is still. And same thing like when we're doing pranayama. And sleep is really like can be thought of as an extension of of your meditation practice. And meditation, of course, when you're meditating regularly, you will sleep better, because what's happening when we meditate, we're accessing consciousness, we're accessing that pure potential. We know with gene expression studies and heart rate variability studies and things that we're improving anxiety, we're, helping with depression and mood issues. Our body, we can feel less pain, which can sometimes be disrupting sleep. So
Right.
meditation gives us lots of benefits to help us sleep. But think, a good meditation practice, you're practicing, maybe twice a day, 20 to 30 minutes. But in sleep, when we start to create natural restorative, like what we say, sattvic sleep, like enlightened sleep, all those hours at night can really be an extension of meditation. So think about the benefits we get when we meditate. You can heighten them by getting good sleep. And when we're sleeping, it's a little different than meditation as well. In meditation, if you look at brain waves, they're mostly like theta waves, like um, deeply relaxed, waves, but we're awake. So there'll be some of the brain waves like we have when we're awake, and but just deeply relaxed. in deep sleep, there is a different type of brainwave, delta waves, that we don't see necessarily in meditation unless people fall asleep when they're meditating, which ideally
Right.
that doesn't happen. And so we know there are different things happening when we're sleeping, even than when we're meditating. Yeah.
Now, there's a reason why you called it awakened sleep,
Yeah.
right?
Right. And that's kind of alludes to that we can use sleep to awaken in our day-to-day lives. So it's not about, and actually in the yogic traditions and in Ayurveda, as people, as we elevate our level of consciousness, we start to become aware in all levels of awareness. We wake up, right? So meaning the consciousness wakes up. So we can be fully aware when we're dreaming, in deep sleep, when we're in waking state, right? And I think I've heard people say, and Dr. Suhas will say this quote that, an enlightened person is fully aware when everybody else is sleeping, and when everyone else is awake, then that's when, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, when
Right.
an enlightened soul realizes that's really slumber, meaning our waking state, as we know in Vedic teaching, is really, this is the illusion, this is the dream, right? And it's actually when we sleep and we access consciousness that's the true reality. So sleep has very mystical aspects, and it's very much considered a spiritual practice, from a Vedic tradition. Yeah.
Um, that's a question that was asked in the chat. Was
Mhm.
could we consider that we sleep in order to dream?
So I wouldn't quite put it that way. So I would say we sleep so we can access consciousness, right? And dreaming is one of those uh sort of experiences that that we have while we're sleeping, during dream state. So it's a natural experience that we have when we're sleeping. um but we don't necessarily go to sleep so that we dream. It's just we go to sleep so that we can access all of these different levels of awareness, including dreams.
And there's stages in dream sleep as well, aren't there? That were maybe not stages, but um, we have there. We could say we have prophetic dreams. That we have dreams where we're burning off karma.
Exactly. Yes, there are in the Vedic tradition and in Ayurveda, there are actually 7 different types of dreams that are described. So you're right, there are different types of dreams. And some are more, kind of emotional processing. They can process the events of that day. Then there's different types of sleep that are accessing subconscious mind and karmic, again, you're clearing kind of some karmic imprints, we could say subconscious stories, narratives, etc. And then there's different types of dreams where we are accessing different planes,
Right.
lokas, they're called. And so yeah, so there are many different types of dreams.
It really goes to show it is not as simple as closing your eyes and saying, "I really hope I get a good night's sleep," which is what we generally do.
Right.
Um, so let's dive into that aspect. How
Mhm.
do we do it? How do I get a good night's sleep?
Yeah, so there are a couple of kind of going back to what we talked about in the beginning, a couple of key things. So aligning ourselves as much with a regular rhythm that's plus or minus aligned with the circadian rhythms. So again, we're going to bed and waking up at the same time. We're eating our meals regularly, and especially a light meal in the evening. So if you eat late, you're not going to get into good sleep stages, and you may wake up hot because digestion creates heat. You may get reflux if you're waking up. So light dinner, most of your, and Ayurveda teaches this, most of your calories in the middle of the day. That's when your digestion is the strongest anyway. So some sort of regular routine. First thing when you wake up, first thing meaning when you wake up, look out the window, look, get sunlight. Now, if you're waking up and it's dark, because you have to go to work in the dark, just as soon as the sun, you can find a window, sunny window, and just look out into the morning sky, because that morning sun, and then getting sun throughout the day. So that's telling you this is day, and then it'll help you fall asleep at night. So morning sun and more natural sunlight throughout the day. And then we do want to pay attention to what's happening with the nervous system throughout the day. So take little breathing breaks. It doesn't have to be like a lot of time. In fact, research shows even just doing 10 to 15 minutes throughout a day of slow rhythmic breathing, your nervous system baseline will reset. So if you think about it, you start your day and your nervous system is getting activated, 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 and nighttime comes and you're way up here, and it's really hard to get that
Right.
down. So if you're getting activated throughout the day and you take little breathing breaks, then you're getting activated, you take some breaks. By nighttime, you're a little bit activated, but then your breathing, your journaling, your sleep hygiene that everyone can read about, that 2 hours before bed, then it's going to work better than if you're way up here. So take little breathing breaks throughout the day. And then simply the last things you think about before you go to bed is what's you're taking it into sleep. So if you're like worrying and thinking and all the thoughts and you're so tired you fall asleep, that's disrupting your sleep. So in the book we have some really quick journaling practices. Dump out the weeds, all the stuff in your mind. This takes no longer than 3 minutes. Then you write down a couple of intentions. So you're picking the weeds, you're planting the seeds, just like we do at the end of meditation, right? We plant intentions. And then you
Right.
close with 3 things you're grateful for. So
Oh,
that's like
nice.
watering the seeds. So that whole practice takes about 3 minutes. And then you can lay down and focus on your breath or focus on a mantra or some saying from some spiritually enlightening phrase, something that's what you want to take into sleep with you. So paying attention to that.
Is there a particular sleep mantra that you would recommend
There are several. We mentioned them in the
in
book.
the
It's
book?
called
Okay.
Awakened Sleep. So there are a lot, but there is one that I learned at the Chopra Center from my mentors. It's Om Augusti, Agasti, Om Augusti Shahina, Shaheena, Shahina, Om Augusti Shahina. So you can bring your awareness to that meditation. And then when your mind moves off, you just bring it back to the repetition, just like we do with meditation. And two things happen. Number one, all of these little different primordial sounds are vibrations of nature, that happens to help us connect to sleep. But so they will help us reconnect to our natural cycles. But number two, if you do that over and over again, you will fall asleep. It might take a little longer in the beginning, but your brain, you're going to create this neural connection, that sound and sleep.
Sweet.
Yes. And so we condition ourselves. So, and I've done this, like I'm a kapha, so I've typically not have trouble sleeping my entire life, but life and stress, all the things. There are a few times in my life where had trouble sleeping. So I started using the mantra, and I noticed it as soon as, once I condition myself, this goes with sleep. As soon as I start saying that, I literally will fall asleep. I can use that to fall asleep anytime. So, so that's another reason to use a mantra of some sort, because you'll associate that with sleep. And then if you're traveling, if you're having maybe you sleep pretty well, but sometimes you can't, go to the mantra and your brain will say, oh, that means sleep. And
Right.
it really works.
I appreciate that because, one of the things that we're taught in meditation is um, that we don't want to use our mantra for problem solving, for this or for that. It's strictly for when we sit in meditation. So
Yeah.
it's nice to know that there are mantras that we can use specifically that
Yeah.
has the same effect
Yes.
when we go to
And there
sleep.
exactly. And there are some other seed mantras that we give in there, like some for vata, pitta, kapha, if that, so, some may be more, again, beneficial. But, again, it's kind of like with meditation. It's nice to have a personalized primordial sound, personalized mantra, but all of these wonderful mantras can help, with things. But yeah, I think, and if you link that, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is the senses. So use the senses because the senses are intimately connected to the nervous system. All sensory input gets turned into electrical activity. informs the nervous system and goes to the emotional part of our brain, the limbic brain. It sits like in the middle of our brain. And there are all kinds of structures in that limbic brain that affect sleep. Are the level of arousal, meaning are we sleepy or are we awake? Memory, stress, um, even hormones like the hypothalamus and pituitary are kind of tucked in there. So all of these nerves, are and areas of the brain are communicating with each other. And smell can be a very powerful sense. So if you link like a mantra or just sleep with a scent, so same thing, just, have a scent, maybe a little spray like rose water, something nice that you like, and you have that smell. You smell it either
Right.
as an essential oil, maybe put a little bit on your, neck or your temples. And then you have that smell. That's another thing you can condition your mind. That smell means relaxation, means sleep. And then so like then when you travel, I carry a little essential oil thing. And so when you're, because that's a big one that disrupts sleep, right? Or you're under stress or what have you. You can reach for that smell, and then that tells your brain, okay, we can calm down. And then you're doing a mantra or something. And so, we always tell people you use all the tools together, right? And
Sure.
none of them take a huge amount of time. Taking little breathing breaks throughout the day. That's the other I tell people, this is free. Your breath is free. Just, your nervous system is, your own tools. You don't have to go anywhere for that. And, your senses. And so, dial down the sensory input throughout the day, or just be mindful of what's coming in through the senses. Yeah.
Right. It seems to me that COVID put everything in hyperdrive. That you know we we jumped from an already high stress level to an even greater one, and that the sleep issues that we had before have now been uh, multiplied several times over.
Yeah, it's interesting. There were some really interesting learnings from that. Like one, for many people, of course, it was a very, anxiety provoking time. That there's a lot of sleep disruption. There was a lot of uncertainty. Maybe people didn't know what jobs, what was happening, etc. Schedules and lives were disrupted. Kids were at home, so very heightened stress time. And there were some learnings there that like people weren't commuting back and forth to work. They could get outside more. They could look, like in some ways they could create a better routine for themselves. Like they had more time during the day, especially like for people who spent a lot of time
Yeah.
commuting, right? And so some people were finding, oh, I loved that. I could slow down a little bit. I was sleeping better, So, and again, everyone's different and everyone's circumstance is different. So it's interesting. We saw how the earth kind of had a little opportunity to heal, right? From all the, pollution and car driving and just people, right? So that also happened to some degree if people were able to not have too much anxiety or stress during that time. Then when everything got back again to crazy, a lot of people I recognize that used to be able to work from home because and it worked for them, right, for their families and for them. Now they're going back to work. They have to go back to the office. And so then this was like a whole another stage of stress and anxiety that the
Right.
shift created. And so I think it was very interesting time for all of us, and I think it went through stages, but definitely different stressors for different people, and yeah, it was an interesting time.
Um, so I think we might still be having some of the lingering effects from that high level of stress, which makes your book and these practices all the more vital. Uh,
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, like there's still some, yeah, from the lingering stress you said, and then even new stressors now because sometimes people had a glimpse of what it was like to not be in the hustle and bustle, and now
right.
we're back in it and it's like almost worse, right, for sometimes. And so yeah, I mean it's very timely. I think just this has been going on for some time, but it's at an all-time high with 1 out of 3 people having insomnia in the world. Different sleep disorders. Just sleep is just completely disrupted, and we can't survive like that. The planet can't survive like that. Like nature, there's a balance of activity and rest. And I see this as I'm a primary care physician, so I still see patients, 1 day a week in an office, and I saw patients all day yesterday, and so many people, like, sleep is disrupted, and so we know when we don't sleep well, we have inflammation. Sleep is one of the best anti-inflammatories that we have. People take all kinds of herbs and supplements and all that. It's like, if their sleep is disrupted, those things aren't going to do anything, right? Um, they are looking for something physical, right? So I always remind people about the mind body connection and thinking about emotions and the mind and stress management practices, because if we're not sleeping, we can't heal the physical issues. So anyone who comes in, I ask them about sleep. How do
Um,
what's your sleep schedule? Do you wake up feeling rested, etc.? Yeah.
I think I heard your writing partner say that just one night of um, sleep deprivation, and we can enter a pre-diabetic state.
Stage. Yeah, so essentially what that means is, things are in evolution all the time, and we realize that in medicine now. Like, people don't all of a sudden one day have diabetes. There was probably 10 years of, like, disruption, insulin resistance was developing. So yes, metabolically, insulin, cortisol, reproductive hormones, all of that whole endocrine system is disrupted from just one night of poor sleep.
Wow.
Now we can recover from that if we get back onto a good schedule and repair. But night after night after night of that, then we are, going to end up in a pre everything situation.
Um, One of the big messages that I'm getting from you that I'm taking away from this conversation is really, we think of sleep hygiene as, well, it's time to get to bed. I'll brush my teeth. I'll get in bed. But it really starts really the moment we wake up, getting that sunlight, uh, getting some breath work in.
Mhm.
Throughout the entire day, we're literally preparing for a good night's sleep.
Absolutely. We say, that the quality of your night depends on the quality of your day, and the quality of your day depends on the quality of your night.
Mm.
So, it's like we have to use our day to think about how we're going to sleep that night, and everything we do, how is it affecting tonight, my sleep? And then we want to go into awakened sleep, a nice, restful, natural, restorative sleep. So our next day is enlightened and awakened, right? And we can live to our fullest potential. And in a lot of the dream sleep and other sleep stages, like, we awaken creativity. So many books, movies, you know, sort of scientific breakthroughs occur in people's sleep. Like, it's like with meditation, we're accessing the ultimate pure creativity. And
Right.
so they're both important, the quality of our day and the quality of our night. Yeah.
It really seems to me like a vital book that you're offering on so many levels. Uh, and it covers from the physical, the emotional, as well as the spiritual
Yes.
in one book. Um,
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because, Ayurveda is a consciousness-based healing system. So there are many, many things that address physical issues, also emotional and mental health. But ultimately, it's all about, advancing our spiritual practice.
right. Very much appreciate that. Could we spend a few minutes maybe answering some questions and then
Yeah,
we'll
absolutely.
let you go? Now, our friend Paveen, he says a big thank you. But he also sent you a message with a super chat here, but it's in Hindi. And I can neither read nor pronounce. Uh,
Yeah, he
yeah.
may have to redo it. I can speak Gujarati, which is our traditional, my family's language, but I don't speak Hindi either.
Um, so, but
Yeah.
I can assure you that he has wonderful things to say
Uh,
about you.
thank you.
Um, so, a question is beyond providing temporary relief, how does deep meditation continue to neuroplasticity in the brain to cope with chronic trauma? And can meditation replace medication? Can meditation replace medication in cases of disorder?
Yeah, so there's so much research that's been done on meditation in the last 20 years, and, like, literally hundreds of articles come out every week. Uh, the things we do know is, yes, that it increases gene expression. So it turns up the genes that have to do with health and longevity. So that has to do with, um, reducing inflammation and increasing hormones that have to do with health and longevity. In the brain, as you mentioned, neuroplasticity. So that means we're actually creating new networks between neurons, nerve cells, so our whole brain can communicate better, all the different areas. We can also grow new nerve cells. Now, this is new. When I went to medical school 30 years ago, we thought once you lose brain tissue, it's gone. We didn't even have this concept 30 years ago in medicine. But now we know without a shadow of a doubt that there is this regenerative ability constantly for all of us. And so areas of the brain when we meditate that have to do with memory, the hippocampus can actually grow in matter. So it can improve cognition and memory. It can, yes, to some, it can I always say every situation's different. For
Right.
many people, it can replace medication. There are some people who are very well served by medication, so I'm not of the camp that all medication's bad, right? We just have to be aware of and use them properly and try to balance any potential side effects that could occur. So I do see patients that are very well served, but when we meditate, we can minimize that. Like what I see in medicine, you take one, maybe it helps a little bit, but there's still issues. Then you're prescribed another one and another one and another one. So what I've seen is people who meditate can at least wean down, they can minimize and potentially, yes, even get off of medications, especially if they weren't that necessarily in the first place.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times people have emotional issues and immediately they're just given a medication, right?
Do you find that the case with trouble with sleeping? Do you think that sleep medications are too easily and readily offered?
100%. 100%. Yeah. And again, I don't think they're all bad. Most of them do disrupt some sleep stages and can increase the risk of dementia. So we really want to avoid them. And again, meds, most of them, there are some that are good for chronic disease. Most of them are meant to be short term, right? Short term
Right.
while we're fixing the underlying problem. The issue is too many people in medicine give people and say, oh, there must be some, you have this chemical thing here, just take this, you'll sleep, but they don't work on the root cause. And that's where we get into trouble. So, if someone's out there and they, take a sleep medication, um, you can work on this natural sort of circadian rhythm and again all the things we talked about, and then slowly wean down, and we should be should be able to sleep on our own. I will tell people it's always best to go slowly. So
Right.
sometimes people will stop a medication, even if they wean down in a week, it's too fast, and then they are like, I can't sleep, so they think, oh, I must need this, and their doctor will say, well, you must need it, just take it. But going down in incremental doses, especially if you're on a high dose of anything, and take your time, take weeks, months, because you're going to be more successful that way. Yeah.
A Course in Miracles stresses that this is a course in cause and not effects. That you can keep rearranging effects, but until you go to the cause, you're basically rearranging the chairs on the deck of the Titanic. It's still going down.
Still going. I love that. That's so true. Yes. Yes.
Praveen has a question. As an Army personnel with irregular sleep, high physical stress, and tough conditions, how can Ayurveda help maintain long-term strength, immunity, and mental focus?
Yeah, so I would say definitely some sort of regular meditation practice. I mean, there are people that are in very stressful situations, and it, definitely will make stress challenging. There's lots of research on chronic stress, trauma interrupts sleep, and then of course, when sleep isn't good, it makes those other issues worse. So it's like a catch-22. So breaking that cycle somewhat by again calming the nervous system, having a regular meditation and breathing practice where you're managing the stress that's there, right? Because that's a lot of stress. There are audios of yoga nidra practices where if you can carve out, there are some like Roger Gabriel, you mentioned
Mhm.
Roger, he's one of my mentors and friends as well. On his website, rogergabriel.com, he has free 20-minute, 40-minute guided yoga nidra practice. So if you do that and just get some deep relaxation, you're at least minimizing the issue,
We lost
you
your
know,
sound. There you
not, yeah, sorry. So you're at least minimizing the issues that can happen from not getting good sleep. So I'd say, explore some yoga nidra.
go.
We also have a website for the book. It's awakened awakened-sleep.net or awakened-sleep.com. And
We've lost connection. We'll see if
sorry.
there we go.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So there are two websites, and I just recorded a Yoga Nidra script on there that it'll be uploaded in the next 2 weeks or so. And there's information there. Dr. Suhas and I are doing a workshop end of January till February, 4 weeks, 4 webinars live. So you can ask questions on the content in the book. So you can look at that on the website, on my website as well.
And I'll make sure that your website is in the description for this chat
Yeah,
so people can
So,
get there. We have a question. Has Dr. Patel ever tried a flotation tank? And if so, what experience did she have?
I've been wanting to, but I haven't. I know many, many people who have, and I just never was able, schedule and all that. But they can be very, very useful. It is this concept of sensory withdrawal, right? And when we withdraw the senses inward, so there's nothing outside to hear, there's nothing to look, it's dark, there's nothing, sensory withdrawal. It's like a pratyahara, like in yoga practice, can cause deep relaxation. And there's different types of these tanks and things, but a lot of them you're floating, so you're not you don't even have the sensation of like being on a hard surface or laying down, like you're literally floating. It's that sensation, and that's like this complete sensory withdrawal, and that is extremely healing. That's why we say like silence is the ultimate purifier. When
Right.
we close, just closing your eyes creates relaxation in the body, because instead of all of our senses being pulled outward, we go inward. And so yeah, I think any of those types of practices are really can be beneficial. Yeah.
Um, could CBD help shift my brain's immune response from a pro-inflammatory state to an anti-inflammatory repair state?
Yeah, so there's lots of research on CBD, and the cannabinoids, because if it's a pure CBD product, they've taken out the THC, or at least the ones that are the most psychoactive. You don't get the kind of high, like maybe and so and it doesn't sort of shift that sort of central nervous system, but then you're getting the anti inflammatory cannabinoids, and they have other benefits as well, these cannabinoids, and they're different ones, right? And so yeah, so CBD can be a really great alternative for pain management, for yeah, many things, cancer.
Our friend Praveen said, Yoga Nidra noted, ma'am. Now, I know some Yoga Nidra sites here on YouTube and others, they'll have it as short as 5 minutes. So you can get a lot of benefit. It doesn't have to be an hour investment every time you lie down to do Yoga Nidra.
Right. I will say you might want to, yes, any type, like we say with meditation, anything's better than zero, right? You could do 1
Right.
minute, 2 minute, but it is very similar to meditation, where it does take a few minutes to just kind of relax in, and then you're going to get more of the benefit a little bit after that. So if you do at least maybe 20-40 minutes, something like that, if you can, you're going to be able to get into deeper relaxation states. But any little bit of a break of doing a relaxation practice will be beneficial, like additively. Yeah.
If you had to pick between a nap and Yoga Nidra, or recommend one over the other, not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I mean, because the proper answer is always it depends. People get
Right.
frustrated with an Ayurvedic practitioner. It's always it depends. Let's get more information, because we all want that one answer.
Sure.
But what will happen if your body needs sleep? I would start with a Yoga Nidra practice, because it's just like with meditation. If your body needs rest, physical rest, you'll fall asleep. You'll
Okay.
fall asleep even doing your Yoga Nidra.
Right.
But because you're accessing different things with each of these practices, if you can start with the Yoga Nidra practice, and you can kind of increase that stage that we talked about earlier, there can be some additional benefits. Yeah.
So it's very much like meditation, and what I was taught by my great teachers. Four things can happen in meditation, and any of them that happen is not only perfectly okay, but it can be beneficial.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all part of the process. Yes,
And
exactly.
what a relief, by the way, because everyone teaching meditation, people come with issues. I can't meditate. I'm thinking too much. It's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay. I
I know.
can't meditate. I fall asleep. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
It's all it's all good.
I know, I
Um,
love that. When I learned that, I thought, "Oh, wow, what a relief." Yeah, and, just release expectation, and just know that whatever experience occurs is fine, and then, as we teach, then you have a choice. You can either go off into the thought, and that, that, you can do that because thoughts will come, right?
right.
Or you can say, "Oh, wait, I'm listening to the voice," or "I'm repeating my mantra," or "Oh, I'm supposed to be focusing on my breath," and you bring your awareness back. And so, in some ways, I tell people, thank those thoughts that come in, thank them, because it's in that choice to come back to center, whatever your anchor is, that's where a lot of the change is happening. And so, it's like we can appreciate that there's all these distractions because it's even better training for us to,
Right.
come back.
And those thoughts can be thought of as a little bit of a karmic replay as well. And as we burn through that karma, it prepares us for a better night's sleep as well. So there's
Exactly. Yeah.
a wonderful cycle that we're going through where everything is supporting the next thing that
Absolutely.
we're going
Yes,
to do.
yes, they're all complementary, additive. So the pranayam, doing some yoga, like, I just wrote an article for that book website, that's on like different asanas you can do, different yoga things you can do that are very relaxing and restorative and can help people sleep. So you can use the body to calm the nervous system and to clear stress. So it's all complementary. That's the great thing. And then people get to decide what practices, they want to choose. I think that's
Would
important.
if you had to list like one of the most important things to do before bed to go to sleep, would you possibly say just put your phone down? Just put your phone down, put it aside. Uh,
That's a big one. Yeah, that's a big one. Like, put it in the bathroom or put it, somewhere, away. Especially in this modern world. Like, 10 years ago, we never would have needed to say those things because we didn't have what we have now, or whenever,
right.
15 years ago. That's a biggie, not only because of the light, but because it gets us thinking. And this constant scrolling style that a lot of things have now. It gives us more vata imbalance. Our mind and our nervous system, we get like kind of hyperactive, and it's created a lot of issues with being able to focus and calm down. Yeah.
And we don't even know the fallout because, as you said, it's still so new.
Yeah,
Because I know a
absolutely.
lot of people have mentioned it's okay. I wear glasses that block out the blue light, or I have a screen that blocks out the blue light. But it's not just about the blue light. It's about
Exactly.
your brain activity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting, like the people who are doing the neuroscience and studying this, like it is an addiction, like we are addicted to our phones because, and it's a biochemical thing, right? We see something we like it, we get a hit of dopamine like faster than anything, right? And so then we want that again, and other things in our lives can't reproduce that as quickly. And so, and it can also create, if we're looking at things that anger us, like immediate, aggravation that can be disruptive as well. And so it's, and also the, like, sometimes the activating hormones, we want that too. And so, like, it's an interesting brain chemistry thing that goes on with our phones.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm going to ask you one last question, and then I'm going to let you go. I very much appreciate your time.
Yeah.
You had mentioned eating your heaviest calories earlier in the day.
Hmm.
Um, the From your last meal to bed, how much time should we have, generally speaking?
So minimum, it should be at least 3 hours. Yeah,
3 hours.
3 hours
Okay.
is a good time to let the digestive system settle down, so that's not going to be disrupting sleep. And of course, in Ayurveda, we always say, and there are always exceptions. So, we talked about the mind body types, and Vata is that air and space type. So they're naturally a little bit light, a little bit airy, a little bit hyper metabolic. So they may eat at 6 o'clock in the evening, and then they digest that, really quickly. And they may need a little something before bed, like an hour before bed at least, to calm, like a banana or golden milk. You know, in Ayurveda, we do golden milk, and it could
Right.
be any kind of plant-based milk if you don't do regular milk. And it could just be a little bit, you know, it doesn't have to be like a 12-ounce glass. Warm the milk, and then you can put turmeric, even a little dab of ghee. Ghee is clarified butter. It's like very that natural oil is very, it's a heavy calming sort of thing for vata types. So if you're one of those types where you're like, well, I can't sleep because I'm ungrounded, and even you can learn more about the doshas on different sites, but they're the exception. Sometimes they need a little something, maybe an hour and a half before bed, and it should be small, warm, or like a banana, just room temperature, to help them sleep. So
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot of vatas who eat early and then don't eat, and then as soon as they start adding in a little warm turmeric milk or something, they sleep much better.
Sure. Could I slide in one more question from a friend?
Of course.
Um, it says, question, please. Can too much sleep cause you to be more tired? And is having constant lucid dreams where I'm super busy, will that cause me to wake up tired?
Yes, yes. Answer to both is yes. So too much sleep, yes. We need a balance of activity and rest. So more than 10 hours again seems to be like too much, not good for us. And if you wake up, we talked about the times of day. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is kapha time. So if you think about it in the morning, it's heavy still, the air is heavy, there's dew on the ground, nature's slowly getting started, our digestion's slowly getting started, we're slowly getting started. So that's why traditionally they say try to wake up before 6. And again, there's a little leeway. Some people can do 7 and it's fine, but right around 8 or 9 is the peak of that heavy quality. And so if you wake up, and lots of people notice this, you wake up early for an airplane, and you're like wide awake. But if you sleep in, even if you got more sleep, you wake up groggy. And
Right.
that could be why, because you're waking up in that kapha dull, heavy time. Um, and the second part of that question was something about,
Constant lucid dreams where I'm super
yes,
busy.
yes.
Will that
Well,
cause me
that's
to wake
another
up
one.
tired?
Typically, those are vata types. They're too much in the ethers during their sleep, and so that those are the people. Sometimes I'll say, do a little oil massage. In Ayurveda, doing a warm oil massage before bed, warm bath for vatas, vata types, and doing a little bit of food, because you do want to stay not way up in the ethers all night long, and that you can wake up feeling tired, but you want to be a little grounded, grounded in the body. So that might help.
And basically, all of this information is in your book.
Yes, yeah,
Right?
we talk about all of these things in the book. Yeah, we spend a whole chapter on senses. There's a whole chapter on emotions and emotion, how that affects sleep, and then kind of the more mystical aspects of sleep. As well as in the front end of the book, we talk about the medical things and things that happen
Right.
when you don't sleep, and the sleep stages, and but really the heart of the book is in the Vedic and Ayurvedic perspectives on sleep. Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible and, like I said, very timely uh, in my view. This is available on Amazon. It's available in bookstores. It's available in Kindle version as well as audio version.
Yeah,
So
it's
it
available
has,
on all booksellers that you would normally order books from. Yeah, so you can use any of the booksellers. Yeah.
um, and I think I think that wraps everything up. I
Yeah.
This just makes me so happy that I got a chance to talk to you. I told you how meaningful this was for me. Uh,
Uh,
if you could just extend thanks to Deepak and Roger for what they've done for me.
I
Uh,
will. I will. Yeah.
Deepak's book, The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success, is sitting on my back shelf right next to Paramahansa Yogananda. Um,
Yeah, mine's right on my bookshelf here.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's been a constant figure in my life. From, that book is actually signed by Deepak.
Oh,
We made a
nice.
pilgrimage to New York City
Nice.
to see him, and I just knew that I had wanted to learn transcendental meditation,
Mhm.
and I was looking, and as I was looking for it, I saw primordial sound meditation, Deepak Chopra, and I said, Deepak, okay, it's all I needed, all I needed.
Yeah, I've really
So
appreciated this kind of way of making all of these teachings accessible and tying in the science. I love science. As a doctor, it really appealed to me. And I think when people understand some of from that scientific perspective what's happening, it can help people stay with their practices. Because sometimes you do things, you're like, is this really doing anything? So it's helpful to understand the science too. So I appreciate
right,
his blending of that. And thank you so much. This was very meaningful for me as well.
thank you.
And thank you for doing all of the wonderful work that you do and sharing all of this wisdom and your experiences. And we have to share stories and talk to each other because that's what will send ripples out.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wishing everyone a weekend sleep.
Guys, I will see
Bye-bye.
you at 5:25. Take care, my friends.
Bye-bye.
I'll get it.